This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
I'm Roby Brock. Welcome to today's edition of Talk Business and Politics. It is the 17th day of the 93rd General Assembly. There was some activity, especially in the House today, as a battery of bills move forward. Arkansas schools have an A through F rating system that grades testing assessments and other criteria that relate to student performance. That system's designed to let the public, administrators, legislators, and others know how well school districts are performing. State legislators are moving to suspend that system for the present school year. That is part of House Bill 1151, which was approved by a 91-4 vote on Wednesday. Now moves on to the state Senate. The bill notes that ratings were not conducted during the last school year due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and the conditions that stymied student assessments last year are still in place this school year. House Bill 1009 allows school districts to give away uneaten food instead of throwing it away. It passed 97-0 in the House. Who knew you'd need a state law for such a common sense measure, but apparently you do. House Bill 1042 removed references to long-term vehicle rental taxes in the state code. The state has not charged a tax for this type of rental in several years, but the language needed to be removed. In Senate business today, state senators passed the governor's office budget after 2 failed attempts. Some Republican senators are dissatisfied with the communication between Governor Asa Hutchinson's office and members of the Senate. And on the COVID-19 front, there were 1,777 new cases today. The death toll climbs by another 52 to 4,742 Arkansans. And we've got more complete coverage of all of that on our website at talkbusiness.net. A quick break, and we are back with Representative Mark Lowery. He is the lead sponsor on 2 controversial bills that deal with teaching history and social justice. We'll get his take on when those bills may move and what changes may still be coming. And later, KATV's Maureen Glisovic talks to us about what's happening with unemployment benefits with the state of Arkansas. There seems to be a hitch. Details right after this. Talk Business and Politics is sponsored in part by Capital Advisors Group and...
You'll find us at the end of a lot of long country roads, covering over 60% of the great state of Arkansas. Our 17 electric distribution cooperatives are working day and night to provide reliable, affordable power to over 500,000 homes, farms, and businesses, just like yours. The Electric Cooperatives of Arkansas, your local energy partners.
They say an apple a day keeps the doctor away. But if you're looking for something more, Walmart has you covered. We provide quality care, no appointment necessary. Whether you're looking for fresh, healthy groceries to fill your prescription, get a flu shot, or pick up your next pair of glasses, we're standing by with in-store health professionals available across the country to offer patient-first, affordable care whenever you need it. Apples, optional.
Joining me now is Representative Mark Lowery, Republican of Maumelle. He is the chairman of the House Insurance and Commerce Committee, and he is on the House Education Committee. Representative Lowery, good to have you with us.
Thank you very much, Roby.
I want to stay on 2 bills that have garnered plenty of publicity over the last week or so since you filed them. House Bill 1231, House Bill 1218. Let's start with House Bill 1231. This deals with the 1619 project. What is your issue with the 1619 project? Why'd you file this bill?
Well, I have the same issue that a number of historians have raised, that this is one has said that this is a thesis in search of evidence. And what it does, it really has been, as I told some of the members in a caucus meeting, if you've wondered what the foundation has been for all this call for tearing down statues and monuments to Washington, Jefferson, even Lincoln, you can point to the 1619 project that has the main thesis that America is built on slavery and white oppression and white supremacy. And that is antithetical to what we all should be believing. In 1776, the principles of the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal, whether we have been able to fully live that or not and are still constantly in that process, that is the founding belief, and that's what we should be standing by.
You can't say that there was not white oppression and slavery in those early years ahead of 1776. And I will just say that there has been both praise and criticism of the 1619 project. And from the research I've done, it looks like they are being taught in kind of in balance with each other there. That criticism is out there in the teaching. Your bill would prohibit that. Why is that good policy?
Well, first, I think everyone needs to understand that I'm not talking about a ban on teaching Black history and teaching the oppressive history of slavery, how that has had generational effects. I think it would be ridiculous for anyone to assume that, for instance, in the Little Rock School District, that they shouldn't be focusing on what happened in 1957, talking about the Little Rock Nine. Those are important, critical elements in our history and things that we need to overcome. But the 1619 project really is not history. It's not a factual accounting. It does take narrative stories and then tries to build a history around it. And that's why the historians who've criticized it have said that it really is not an adequate curriculum.
Well, this gets into maybe a larger theory here, and I think that House Bill 1218 touches on this too, but let me ask the question now. I mean, should the legislature be restricting what the curricula is for a particular teaching, for what teachers do, for what school districts do? This kind of goes against the conservative principle of local control. Plus, we have the State Board of Education to regulate that too. Why should the legislature have this role?
Well, I think the legislature has involved itself many times in educational standards. There have been members of the legislature that have served on curriculum boards. And so it's not really a new step for the legislature to be involving itself in that process. I happen to think that when the Education Committee meets on adequacy, and we're constitutionally required to do that, that adequacy and equity is not just about money. It is also about the way that education is being tasked and carried out in our schools. And as such, since the school districts are not being sued, but the state of Arkansas is being sued, we have that responsibility to make sure that all students are protected, that all students have a voice, and frankly, even teachers. I've heard from a number of teachers that feel like they don't have a voice to be able to push back on some of this teaching that they find to be very undermining of our nation's history, and also in relation to HB 1218, the issue of pointing out that these students have privilege, these don't, and that it being very divisive.
Well, let's turn to House Bill 1218. It does center on the teaching of social justice and diversity and inclusion, as you've referenced there. I don't have to tell you that there are some folks that say that this bill, this measure of yours, along with House Bill 1231, sends a signal that Arkansas is not progressive, that Arkansas is not open-minded, that it's not good for recruiting some of that talent for the jobs of the future. Does that argument not carry any weight or concern for you?
I don't believe it does, and especially after I've amended the bill. You know, there are things that nowhere did it say in the bill. Even if you read between the lines, you should not read from the bill that it bans the teaching of Black history or that it bans student organizations. And so, but to be responsive to that, I've filed an amendment that clarifies very clearly that there is not a prohibition on the teaching of African American history. There's not a prohibition on voluntary participation by students in activities and events. What I'm concerned about is what is taking place in classroom instruction that focuses on the division, basically taking identity politics and moving it into the classroom. We should be heralding the value of the individual and the individual's ability to be able to overcome any adversity, whether it is within their own generation, whether it is a learning disability or the fact that they really have to have a free breakfast, free lunch, or they wouldn't get fed that day. We should focus on the ability of that individual to overcome that, in addition to generational elements that have maybe held them back because of their ethnicity or their race. And nothing in the bill says that we can't talk about those things, and we absolutely should.
Well, why not write the bill a little bit more tailored to some of the specific instances that you're singling out here versus something that's a little bit more encompassing, and the fact that it may have some potential First Amendment issues as a result of that? Why not tailor the scope of what you're trying to eliminate from the examples that you've been given?
Well, I think we've done that by actually looking at the element of the issue of critical race theory. And what does critical race theory do? It divides by classes the individuals rather than looking at the value or the worth of the individual. Yes, we could be very specific and say critical race theory shouldn't be used in the classroom, but it's very easy then to take those same teachings or those same activities like the privilege walk and say, well, this is really not part of critical race theory. It's actually found in another textbook, and we're still going to incorporate it.
Yeah, so critical race theory is not specifically mentioned in the bill. It's not in the amendment that you're adding, correct?
Well, no, it is not. And but what we're including in the amendment is a clarification of what the bill does not do, what it does not prohibit. You know, I've never been in a position where I'm going to have to start out the presentation of my bill by saying this bill does not do this, because there's been so many outlandish stories and outright lies about what the bill does or even what my personal motivations are. But I have tried to be responsive and recognize that some people, well-intentioned, could have seen incorrectly what the bill does. And so we're clarifying those things.
All right, lastly, any other substantive changes coming to the bill? Are you open to some more changes if some things present themselves to you in committee testimony? And then kind of what is your time frame for when you might run this bill or both of these bills?
Okay, I've been told HB 1231 is on the agenda, excuse me, for education tomorrow. The only thing that would keep it from being run in committee is that we're still waiting on a fiscal impact statement, which is required on any bill in education committee. So I'm trying to track that down. 1218, the amendments are being read across the desk today under members own. The bill should be engrossed tomorrow. So the earliest that bill could be heard would be next week. And I don't anticipate that happening next week, but that would be up to the chair of the education committee. And yes, I think I've already shown, I've met with the president of the Little Rock School District School Board. I've met with a African-American member of the North Little Rock School Board. And in both cases, I've taken their issues that they presented to me and I've responded to them. We're even, maybe talking about the possibility of a town hall or a Zoom conference to take more input, more feedback on how we can improve that, how we can protect students, because really that's what this is about. We pass legislation all the time to make sure that children are not, and I hate to use this word, but that children are not abused. Well, abuse takes on a lot of different characteristics. One of those could be something that is demeaning, that is embarrassing to a student in a captive classroom, especially at K-12. And they have no way to be able to escape from that demeaning attitude. And unfortunately, sometimes that is being done at the hands of teachers.
All right, Representative Mark Lowery, appreciate your explanations. Appreciate you coming on and sharing your thoughts with us. And we will see you in the coming days.
Okay, thank you, Roby.
All right, we're back with more right after this word from our sponsors. Stay tuned. Talk Business and Politics is sponsored in part by Impact Management Group and
we have a large commitment to our solar for good reason. It lowers customers' rates. It's emissions-free.
Entergy Arkansas is the largest provider of solar in the state of Arkansas.
Utility-scale solar is much more economic for customers. We're going to operate it. We're going to maintain it. We're going to focus on it. That's what we do for a living.
We want to continue to find ways to partner with our customers to meet their renewable energy goals.
Customers want this. We want to provide it. So our commitment is for the long term.
Stepping into the unknown, it can be difficult to find the way. But with the compassion of the cross and the security of the shield, obstacles become openings. As we have for more than 65 years, we'll continue to light the way, using our knowledge to create new healthcare solutions, giving you the power to shine forward to whatever awaits tomorrow. Arkansas Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Live fearless.
And welcome back to the program. Joining me now is Maureen Glisovic. She is the senior political reporter for KATV. She leads the 7 on Your Side office, and she is a Talk Business and Politics contributor. Maureen, good to see you in face-to-face here, at least by camera. I feel like I talk to you all the time.
Good to see you too, Roby.
Let's talk about what is going on in unemployment circles. We seem to have a problem in Arkansas with long-term unemployment. You've been receiving a lot of phone calls and emails about this. Tell me, assess the problem for me. Tell me kind of what you're receiving from the contact that you're getting.
Well, to put this into perspective, since July of 2020, 7 on Your Side has received 1,500 calls related to unemployment issues. Our story last night ran, we had received an additional 110. The issue right now is that the pandemic unemployment assistance, that benefit that ran out in December but was extended by Congress, those checks have not been distributed to Arkansans. The last check some of these folks have received is mid-December, and they're not slated to get another check from PUA benefits until mid-February. So when I spoke to state officials, they mentioned something about an update with their system. They're trying to create an identification verification process, but it's taking so long. And at the end of the day, Arkansans are tired and they can't wait to get a check 2.5 months later.
So as you mentioned, you've talked to some state officials about this. There were some more strings attached to that federal extension of relief that was passed in late December there. Again, that's good to at least know where the problem lies, but it doesn't really stop the suffering. How is the state responding to this?
Well, I did get that explanation from the Secretary of Commerce, Mike Preston, who oversees, the unemployment benefits here. And he mentioned there were a lot of stipulations or guidelines they need to follow in order for them not to be audited later and end up having to pay the federal government money because they might have overpaid or they didn't catch enough fraudulent claims. So they're essentially rebuilding the system to make sure they can verify identifications for those who are applying for the benefits. As far as the suffering, we asked the governor during the press conference, I asked Mike Preston, and I've asked lawmakers, and they have continued to say, reach out for food assistance, reach out for rental assistance. Well, we know a lot of the rental assistance has already been dispersed, and there just is not enough money to help the amount of Arkansans that need the help.
So what's the best way for someone who does need help? Where do they go for information that they need to address some of this relief?
Well, at this point, I'm actually going to be running a story tonight, a follow-up on the unemployment problems, and on KTV.com we'll have links to how you can apply for SNAP benefits, or also known as food stamps. There are plenty of other assistance with some little bit of rental assistance left out there. You'll have to contact your local county offices, but I'm going to have a list by county as well as how to contact these folks on that story at KTV.com.
All right, KATV's Maureen Glisovic, always good to visit with you. Thank you for all your contributions you've been making for us over the course of the legislative session here. We still got a few more months to go. I hate to break that to you.
That's the reality. Thanks for having me on, Roby.
All right. And that is all for today's Talk Business and Politics. I'm Roby Brock. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.